They found that 55% of women actually deem it to be a red flag if the man or the partner listens to the Joe Rogan Experience. You women. A study has found that a majority of women find it a turn-off if their partner listens to the Joe Rogan Experience. Ladies, let me just say this straight off the bat, okay? I've listened to some female podcasts, all right? They've come up as clips on the old Instagram and TikTok. And let me just say this. After listening to those clips and hearing a female podcast, I wanted to, and I've never wanted to do this in my entire life, I wanted to do this. That's how bad it felt. That's how horrific it was to listen to. Now, I don't want to sound like a misogynist here. Who am I kidding? Who cares? But we should absolutely ban female podcasts, all right? They are a plight against humanity. All of the world's problems, famine, disease, floods, fires, are caused by two women sitting in inexpensive chairs talking into Shure microphones and broadcasting it across the world. Honestly, I would rather cut off my fucking foreskin and put it over my head like one of those stupidly, ridiculously tight fucking eye masks they give you on a plane. All right? Shut up. Stop it. Please. You women. You stick to learning everything you know off Instagram memes and your OnlyFans entrepreneurial ship. And you leave the real, intelligent conversations to us men.
So have you ever done DMT?
Anyway, okay. Study finds that women are turned off by the Joe Rogan podcast. Can I ask you, is anyone actually turned on by the Joe Rogan podcast? Like, does anyone wet up when they hear this monkey? Because if you do, I'm going to suggest that there's some severe childhood trauma, particularly one that happened at a zoo. Change Research conducted a study of over 1,000 18 to 34-year-olds looking to learn about their political leanings, belief systems, dating preferences, and more. They found that 55% of women actually deem it to be a red flag, meaning, you know, I'm not going to date that person, or that person's probably a bad person, or they're toxic, etc., etc., if the man or the partner listens to the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. I wonder what they didn't like about the podcast. I wonder what they think is so bad about it. Is it the wide range of guests? From Bernie Sanders to Hulk Hogan, Anthony Bourdain to Graham Hancock. Perhaps Bob Lazar was the turning point, or Bill Burr. Edward Snowden perhaps, maybe Dr. Phil, or even Alex, I shall not say his name, Junes. Or perhaps it's even Eddie Bravo. Perhaps it's one of these people that really made him think, you know what, the Joe Rogan Experience is toxic masculinity and it must be stopped. Is it the comedians? Is it the doctors? Is it the scientists? What turns you off, ladies? What really starts to get you all hot under the collar with bother? Why are you so worried? And yes, I am defensive of old Mr. Joe because I met him last week.
I got to meet Joe. I got to meet Joe Rogan, the dude who, by listening to his podcast, got me into stand-up. Absolutely insane. I was hard as a rock.
He's a very nice guy. But I've also been impacted by the Joe Rogan Experience over the years. I started listening to it just after high school. It got me into stand-up. Number one, there was a podcast episode with Joey Diaz and Joe Rogan. They were talking about how they started in stand-up. I basically did the same thing. I wrote 5 minutes, I went to an open mic night, and here we are today, like 10 years later. That's incredible. I am incredible. I've also most definitely learned more from Joe Rogan's podcast than I ever did from school, or 2 decades of fucking school. What gives Joe the power that he now has is the guests that he has on. It's not Joe. Joe isn't the focus of these podcasts. Joe is just the arbiter of conversation. He is the one who is bringing these people on, giving them the platform to talk to the world. And he has had guests from every corner of the world, every gender, everything. And you can just really start to understand and have more of a tighter grasp on reality and the world around you by listening to these long-form conversations. And if you're not listening to Rogan's podcast, that's fine. I just think people should be digesting similar types of podcasts or books or documentaries whatever. It's actually more of a red flag if you're not doing that. You should be greatly concerned if your fucking partner just sits at home and scratches his balls all day. Wouldn't you think that's a fucking red flag? That's certainly a red flag. Or is this just more about political leaning? Well, it fucking is. I'll get to that in a second. So this survey of 1,033 18 to 34-year-olds had a wide range of questions. Not only was it about some red flags, but also how they felt their lives were progressing. And could they still achieve the American dream, which I guess is the same as the Australian dream of a family and a house, etc., etc. But when you look at the polls, they're quite concerning. Most interviewees were not convinced at all that they could. They weren't even convinced that they could own a home or start a business or retire, which is a bleak outlook for America if this is what the young people are thinking. But it does echo throughout the Western world. Why? Because we're all fucked. Probably because we shut down for fucking 3 years, dickheads. Honestly, I'd like to say that if anyone identifies as anything, it's a fucking red flag. But anyway, I digress. 76% of women think it's a red flag if they are a Make America Great Again Republican. And I understand that to an extent, but also wouldn't you want to be proud of your country? I don't know. I'm not right-wing or left-wing, particularly in American politics, probably because I don't live there, but nor am I in Australian politics. I like to think of myself in the middle of everything and take the best from both worlds. But there is obviously this team or this religious mentality when it comes to politics, and that's what we see in surveys like these. People will defend their side and they will attack the other side viciously. 60% of women say it's a red flag if the opposite sex says that all lives matter. Okay, cool. Maybe we could just all chill out a bit. I was just in America, as I said, walking down the street, and a lot of homeless people, and they're all different shapes, sizes, and colours. Maybe if we really did buy into the idea that all lives matter, this world would be a better place. But no, that's a red flag. 58% of women think it's a red flag if a man says that there are only two genders, which means that 42% of women are interested in science. Here's the real red flag though. Only 20% of women thought it was a red flag if their potential partner was into astrology, which is in itself a red flag of a red flag. Red flag inception, you're welcome. But here it is, 55% of women don't like the Joe Rogan experience. Okay, and ladies, what we've learned from this is 55% of you in this survey are shit people. And I think that because I know why you think Joe is a bad person and the podcast breeds toxic masculinity and all this shit, is because someone in your circle of shit friends has said it after they heard it in another circle of friends who heard it third person from fucking CNN. All right? You don't have a fucking brain between any of you, and you've never had an original thought. Fuck off. People just love to follow the path of least resistance, and a great way to do that is to just do whatever their friends are doing. It's this sheep mentality, and it's shit. It's funny though, the amount of people that really don't like Rogan almost exactly equals the respondents who voted Democrat in the last election, or were too young to vote at the time. Perhaps we can change the numbers just a little bit there. It makes sense that this is just a team thing, because if you're a Democrat, you're not allowed to like Joe. That's one of the rules. The survey also asks if someone says that something is woke, it could lead to violence against LGBTQ people, black people, women, and for some reason, influencers. I don't understand how that fucking works. To wrap up this video, I just want to say, if you don't like something just because someone says that they don't like it, then that is just an awful way to live your life. Go in and find out if these people like Joe are actually bad people or the bad people that you think they are. It's similar with me, right? People say, oh, this Butterfield, he's a piece of shit, he's homophobic. But if you watched any of the videos or spent any time listening to the stand-up or the podcast or whatever, you would realize that that's not my actual thoughts at all. And you're just judging a person and everything they believe just because of something that is written as a title or a thumbnail or what someone else has said. And I think that is the issue here. People aren't making up their own minds. And that's quite sad, really. You know what else is sad? This video's coming to an end. Come and see me live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm doing some shows before the end of the year, and then I'm doing a massive world tour. Next year, we're going to the UK, we're going to America, we're going to Australia, obviously. But we will see you all very, very shortly. I know there's other countries, but fuck the lot of you. We'll see you very soon. Toodaloo, au revoir, bye-bye.